the Word. Jesus is the Word. The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. We beheld His glory. We beheld His glory. The glory of the Son of God. Full of grace and truth, life and light, and the life is the light of man. Jesus is the Word. Jesus is the Word. The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm glad you're here for another lesson from the Bible, God's Word. The Bible is the most important book that's ever been written, and it tells us all we need to know about God. Last week we talked about God is omnipotent. God is all-powerful. When God made the walls of Jericho came tumbling down, that's because God is omnipotent. God is all-powerful. Today, we're going to talk about God is omniscient. The word omniscient means God is all-knowing. God knows everything. God is omniscient. We've been learning from the Bible many things about the Israelites. The Israelites were the special group of people that God brought out of a land where they had to be slaves and brought them into a new land for them to live. He promised them a new land, the land of Canaan. And now they're in Canaan and they're ready to defeat the other cities that are there because this is their land that God gave them. But along the way, God gave them a list of things for them to remember so that they could know how to treat God and they could know how to treat people. And we call those the 10 Commandments. And we've been learning about the 10 Commandments. It's been a little while, but let's see how well you remember them. We use our fingers to help us remember. The first one is talking about how we should treat God. The first one is, have no other gods besides me. The second one, we do this with our fingers like we're cutting something out, because the second one is, thou shalt not have any graven image. He doesn't want us to make something pretend like it's our God. So he says, don't make any graven image. The third commandment, we do this. Because the third commandment is, don't take God's name in vain. That would be bad. The fourth commandment helps us remember how we should worship our God. The fourth commandment says, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. The fifth one helps us start thinking about how we should treat other people. And the first one is, how should we treat our mother and father? The fifth commandment says, honor thy father and mother. The sixth commandment helps us know how we should treat other people because the sixth commandment says, thou shalt not kill. So we go, ah! We shouldn't kill because God tells us not to. The seventh commandment is, thou shalt not commit adultery. And we pretend it's walking down the aisle to be married. Only someone who commits adultery doesn't get married. And so that's wrong for them to pretend that they're married when they're not married. The eighth commandment is, thou shalt not steal. Because when you steal, you get put in jail or your thumbs get cut off. A long time ago it was. So the eighth commandment helps us remember, thou shalt not steal. When you steal, you're taking something that belongs to somebody else, and God says that's wrong. The ninth commandment is, thou shalt not bear false witness. That means don't talk about people and say things that aren't true. When we talk about people and say things that aren't true, we often whisper them. Psst, 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 psst. That helps us remember that God says, don't do that. Don't lie. Don't talk about things. Don't talk about people in a wrong way. And that not covet. Remember, to covet means to want things that aren't yours. Things that God hasn't given to you. That means you're not happy with what God has already given to you. You want more things. So the 10th commandment is, thou shalt not covet. Now, before we go on with our lesson, we're going to sing a song with Mr. Mike. And Mr. Mike has a fun song to help us remember when we get something out to play with, or we get something out to read, or we get something out to color, we need to remember to put it back. And this song is called Put It Back.
Put it back where you found it, put it back where it goes, put it back where you got it, place it ought to go, put it back where you got it, where it should be. Put it back where you found it. It may be a hat, it may be a coat, it may be your shoes or Uncle Billy's goat. Always do what you're told to do.
What's that?
Put it back where you found it.
Put it back where you found it, put it back where it goes, put it back where you got it, the place it ought to go, put it back where you got it, where it should be. Put it back where you found it.
It may be a hammer, it may be a saw, it may be a book or a little baby doll. Always do what you're told to do.
What's that?
Put it back where you found it. Put it back where you found it. Put it back where it goes. Put it back where you got it. Place it ought to go. Put it back where you got it. Where it should be. Put it back where you found it.
Put it back where you found it.
Put it back where you found it.
Last time, when we learned about Jericho and how the Israelites marched around the city of Jericho 7 days. And on the 7th day, they marched around the city of Jericho 7 times. And then the priests blew with their horns. And then the people shouted. And then the walls came tumbling down. Only God could do that. The people didn't fight. They just did what God said. They obeyed God. And when they obeyed, God helped them get the victory in Jericho. Well, after the walls came tumbling down, Joshua told the people to go into Jericho and bring out all the gold and silver and iron that they could find and bring it out and give it to the priests, because they would use it in the tabernacle when they worshiped God. They would make beautiful things with it so that they could worship God. Well, one man, his name was Achan. And Achan went into Jericho and he saw that beautiful gold and silver and even some very pretty clothes. And he thought, I would like to keep some of that for myself. So that's what he did. He gathered up some gold and silver and some clothing that he found, and he took it back to his tent and he buried it underneath his tent, and he thought, nobody will ever know what I did. And none of the people did know. They didn't know that he had stolen some things. Well, after that, Joshua knew that the next city for them to defeat was a city called Ai. So Joshua sent some spies into Ai, and he said, find out what kind of a city it is. Will we be able to defeat this city? And so he sent some spies in, and they came back out and they said, oh, it's a small city. You don't even have to send the whole army in. Just send a small group in, and they will easily be able to defeat the city of Ai. So that's what Joshua did. Joshua sent a small army into Ai to defeat the city. But when the people in Ai found out they were coming, the soldiers in Ai came rushing out and chased the Israelites back to their camp. In fact, some of the men were killed. The Israelite men were killed. Joshua didn't know what had happened. God had always helped them defeat the cities. So Joshua got down on his knees. Why did we not have the victory? And God answered Joshua. And God said, because Israel hath sinned. They've transgressed my covenant which I commanded them. They have even taken of the accursed thing and have stolen, and they've put it even among their own stuff. We know who God was talking about. He was talking about Achan, the man who had taken the gold and silver and put it in his own tent, buried it under his tent. But he thought, surely nobody knows that I did this. He forgot that God is omniscient. God knows everything. So God told Joshua how to find out who it was. God told Joshua, the one who has sinned in this way is from the tribe of Judah. Now remember, there were 12 tribes, and Achan must have thought, surely they would never find me among all these thousands of Israelites. But God said, he's from the tribe of Judah. So that got it down to a smaller group of people. And Achan was from the tribe of Judah. And then God said, the man who has stolen and has done this wrong is from the clan of Zarhi. Well, that's a smaller group of people. And you know what? Achan was from the clan of Zarhi. And then God told Joshua, the man you're looking for who has stolen and who has made it to where you got defeated in Ai is from the family of Zabdi. Those are different names, aren't they? But he was from the family of Zabdi, and that was the family that Achan was from. And finally, God told Joshua, the man who has stolen is Achan. And so Joshua brought Achan before him, and he said, Achan, what have you done? What's this thing that you've done that has caused all of Israel to be so sad because we were defeated in Ai? And Achan admitted the wrong that he did. He said, when I was in Jericho, I saw the Babylon garment. That means the fancy clothes that he saw. And he said, and I saw 200 shekels of silver. And he says, I saw a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight. And then I coveted them. And then I took them. And behold, they are hid in the earth in the midst of my tent. Achan admitted that he coveted those clothes, and he coveted the gold and silver. And after he coveted, which was the 10th commandment, then he took them. He stole. That's the 8th commandment. He coveted, and then he stole. And God was not pleased. Remember what God said to do with all the gold and silver that they brought out of Jericho? God said, give it all to the priest and use it as you worship me. But Achan took some for himself and he hid it. And so Joshua sent some men over to Achan's tent, And he said, see if you can find what Achan said he put there. And the men brought it back, and they brought back bags and bags of gold and silver, and there was so much. And they even brought the cloth, the clothing that he had stolen, so that Joshua could see everything that he took. And all the people saw the wrong thing that Achan had done. And now God told Joshua, Achan will have to die. And that's what happened. Achan had to die. And they took all of the things from his tent, all of his stuff, and it was all burned up because he did wrong. Well, after Achan died, all the people saw what had happened to Achan, and they realized God really is omniscient. God knew everything that Achan had done. So then Joshua sent another group of men into the city of Ai, and guess what happened this time? They could defeat the city because God helped them. Do you ever do something that you think, nobody will ever know? My mom won't ever know that I did this wrong thing. Mom might not see it, but God sees it because God is omniscient. God knows everything. But that's a wonderful thing, that God knows everything, that God is omniscient. That's how God can take care of you. God can take care of you because He knows everything about you. He knows when you're hurting. He knows when you're sad. And He wants to help take care of you. Maybe other people don't know that you have hurt feelings, but God knows because God is omniscient. God knows everything, and that's wonderful. And that's how He can help you do everything. All the people saw what happened, and they learned that God wants them to obey completely. And when they obey completely, God would take care of them. They didn't have to be afraid at all when they obeyed completely.